3 days later, the crew of the Baekdu was transported to another location. This time they were prepared for the light beam teleportation. It still felt strange, like being taken apart and put back together, but at least they knew it was coming. They appeared in the grandest room they had seen yet. The ceiling was so high it seemed to disappear into glowing mist. Hundreds of aliens of different species sat in curved rows, all watching them. At the far end was a throne made of what looked like solid light. Sitting on it was the Emperor. Caltheron 9 was bigger than the other Varathians, and his crystalline body glowed brighter. He wore a crown that floated above his head without any visible support. The whole presentation was clearly meant to be overwhelming. "Humans," the Emperor's voice echoed in their minds. "You stand before the Imperial Senate. We have reviewed your case. Never in our 12,000-year history has a species shown such disrespect." Daejung stepped forward. "Your Majesty, we didn't mean any disrespect. We're just confused about why we're here." "You question the Empire?" The Emperor sounded genuinely surprised. "Not question, just, we don't understand what you want from us. We're civilian miners. We got lost. We'd like to go home." The Senate chamber filled with strange sounds. The aliens were talking among themselves. The humans' translation devices were picking up fragments. "Refuse integration? Unheard of. Is this defiance?" The Emperor raised one crystalline hand and silence fell. "You do not refuse the Empire. That is not how this works. We have assigned your species to Class 7 status. You will be given a colony world in the Outer Rim. You will provide raw materials to the Empire. In exchange, you receive our protection and access to our technology." Daejung looked at his crew, then back at the Emperor. "Can we discuss this first?" The Emperor's glow dimmed slightly. "Discuss? Yes, this is a big decision. We'd need to talk to our government back on Earth. We'd need to understand the terms. What kind of materials? What does protection mean? Can we still govern ourselves? Do we have to change our culture?" Minna added, "Also, are your biologies compatible with ours? What about diseases? We could accidentally infect each other. Has anyone done medical compatibility studies? What about trade balance?" Hana asked. "If we're providing raw materials, what's the exchange rate? How does the economy work? Do you use currency or some kind of barter system?" Jiho raised his hand nervously. "Can we maintain contact with Earth? We have families. And what about our ship? We're under contract with a mining company. We can't just abandon it." The Senate chamber was silent now. Every alien was staring at the humans. This was clearly not how these meetings usually went. The Emperor seemed to be struggling for words. These details are handled by integration specialists. No species has ever asked these questions before." "Really?" Daejung was genuinely surprised. "How do you integrate a whole species without working out the details first?" "We conquer them," said one of the Senate members bluntly. "It was a large insectoid alien, or they see our glory and beg to join. Either way, they accept our terms. But those aren't our only two options," said Daejung. "We're not conquered, and while your empire is impressive, we're not begging to join. We're just lost and want to go home." The Emperor stood from his throne. "You are the first species in millennia to enter our space that we did not discover ourselves. You came through an unknown wormhole. That makes you our responsibility. We cannot simply let you leave." "Why not?" asked Taemin. Because that is not the procedure." The Emperor actually sounded uncertain. A new voice spoke from the side of the chamber. "Perhaps we are approaching this incorrectly." A female Varathian approached. She was smaller than the Emperor, but she moved with confidence. "I am Princess Vilmara, daughter of the Emperor. May I speak with the humans privately?" The Emperor looked relieved. "Yes, handle this, Vilmara." The princess led them to a smaller chamber. Once they were alone, her formal manner dropped slightly. "You are causing quite a problem," she said, and there was almost humor in her mental voice. "We don't mean to," said Daejung. "We genuinely just want to go home." "I believe you," Vilmara said. "But you must understand, the Empire has existed for so long that it operates on tradition and ceremony. You are breaking all the patterns. No one knows how to handle you." "What would happen if we just took our ship and left?" Hana asked. "They would stop you. Probably destroy your ship. The Empire cannot allow defiance, even unintentional defiance. So we're prisoners." Mina's voice was hard. "No, you are guests who cannot leave yet." Vilmara seemed uncomfortable. "Look, I will be honest with you. The Empire is not as strong as it appears. We have not had a real challenge in thousands of years. We are stagnant. When you showed no fear, no amazement, it frightened the Senate more than any weapon could. Why? Asked Jiho. Because it reveals what we have been denying. We are not as advanced as we tell ourselves. We simply conquered a large area long ago and have been maintaining it ever since. Your technology is different from ours, but not inferior. That should not be possible for a species we just discovered. Daejung thought about this. So what do you need from us? Time. Give us time to figure out how to let you go without looking weak. In the meantime, stay in your assigned quarters. Do not cause trouble. Can you do that? The crew agreed. What choice did they have? Velmara arranged for them to be taken to better quarters in a different part of the station. These rooms were larger and more comfortable, though the furniture was designed for different body types and heights. Well, said Hana once they were alone, at least she was honest with us. Daejung nodded. We wait, try to stay out of trouble. With luck, they'll let us leave in a few weeks. But staying out of trouble proved harder than expected. The quarters were comfortable, but things kept breaking. The door jammed on the first day. The environmental controls cycled between too hot and too cold. The food synthesizer produced something that looked like gray paste and tasted worse. Hana couldn't help herself. She fixed the door using basic tools from her belt. It took 10 minutes. She adjusted the environmental controls by accessing a maintenance panel. Another 15 minutes. The food synthesizer was more complex, but after an hour of tinkering, it was producing actual edible food. Byung-ho, the ship's cook, was watching over her shoulder. Can you make it produce actual ingredients instead of finished meals? Probably. Why? Because I could cook something actually good. This synthesized stuff is nutritionally complete but tastes like cardboard. They worked on it together. Soon, Byung-ho was making actual stir-fry with actual vegetables. The smell filled the quarters. Within an hour, aliens started appearing at their door, attracted by the smell. A small lizard-like alien poked its head in. What is that smell? Dinner, said Byung-ho. You want some? The alien ate a plate and nearly cried. I have not tasted real food in years. Only synthesized nutrition paste. How did you make this? Cooking, Byung-ho said simply. You take ingredients and apply heat and seasoning. Show me, the alien begged. And just like that, Byung-ho was teaching alien cooking classes in their quarters. More aliens came. They brought friends. Soon there were 15 different species crowded into the small kitchen area, watching Byung-ho demonstrate how to make fried rice. Meanwhile, Hana's door repair had been noticed. A Varathian maintenance worker asked her how she did it so quickly. She showed him. He asked about the environmental controls. She showed him that too. He asked if she could look at something else that had been broken for months. I should not ask, the worker said. But our supervisors take weeks to approve repairs. You fixed in minutes. It's not complicated, Hana said. These systems are actually pretty simple once you understand the logic. Can you teach me? By the end of the first week, Yuna, one of the young miners, had accidentally become a minor celebrity. She had fixed a public lift that had been out of service. She did it because she was tired of taking the long way around. She used basic earth tools and common sense. A crowd gathered to watch. When it worked, they cheered. The crew tried to keep a low profile. They really did. But everywhere they went, things were broken and they could not help fixing them. It was what they did. They were engineers and workers. Seeing problems and not fixing them felt wrong. The problem was that each fix made the Empire's technology look bad. Each solution made the Empire's complicated procedures look unnecessary. And with every passing day, more lower caste aliens started asking questions. If humans could fix things so easily, why were they told it was impossible? If human technology worked just as well with simpler designs, why was the Empire's way considered superior? And if these humans were not impressed by the Empire, what did that say about the Empire itself? Velmara visited them on the 8th day. I told you not to cause trouble. We're not trying to, Daejung said honestly. We're just living here and fixing things that are broken. That is the trouble, Velmara said quietly. You are making people think. The meeting happened in secret, in a maintenance tunnel that Hana had mapped during her repairs. About 20 aliens were there, all from lower castes. The lizard-like Treviks who had first tried Byung-ho's cooking, several of the insectoid Kiriks who worked in sanitation, a few of the tentacled Miral who maintained the station's gardens, even a couple of young Varathians who worked in maintenance. Daejung had not wanted to come. This felt dangerous. But the aliens had begged and the crew had agreed to listen. "We want to learn," said a Trevix named Cass. His translator made his voice sound nervous. "Not just cooking and repairs. We want to understand how you think." "How we think?" Minna was confused. "You see a problem and you fix it," explained a Varathian maintenance worker named Telk. "You do not wait for approval. You do not follow the procedure. You just fix it. We are not allowed to think like that." "What do you mean, not allowed?" Hana asked. The aliens looked at each other. Finally, a Miral named Scylla spoke. Her tentacles moved in patterns that the translator interpreted as sadness. "The Empire has rules. Lower castes do not innovate. We follow the procedures written by the upper castes. To change anything, even something broken, requires approval from 7 different departments. It can take years." "That's crazy," said Jiho. "You could fix most things in hours if you just did it." "That is what you do not understand," Telk said. "The Empire does not want things fixed quickly. They want things done their way, the proper way. Innovation from lower castes is seen as questioning the system." Taemin leaned forward. "What happens if you do innovate?" "Punishment, demotion, sometimes exile to labor colonies." Cass's translator could not hide his bitterness. The Trevix used to be builders and engineers. 3,000 years ago, one of our leaders suggested a better way to construct jump gates. The Empire called it defiance. Now we are maintenance workers. Our own technology was taken from us. The humans sat in stunned silence. Daejung finally spoke. "Why are you telling us this?" "Because you show us it does not have to be this way," Scylla said. "You come from outside the Empire. You treat problems like they can be solved. You teach us without asking for anything. You see us as equals." "Of course you're equals," Mina said. "Why wouldn't you be?" "Because the Empire says we are not." Telk's colors shifted to something that looked like anger. "The Empire has a hierarchy. Vorathians are at the top. Then come species useful for war. Then for trade, then for labor. The Trevix, Kirix, Miral. We are near the bottom. We exist to serve." "That's not right," Hana said firmly. "We know, but what can we do?" Cass spread his clawed hands helplessly. "The Empire has existed for 12,000 years. It controls 40,000 systems. We are 40 maintenance workers in one station." Byung-ho, who had been quiet, finally spoke. "My grandfather told me something once. He said that big changes start small. One person teaching another person. That person teaching 2 more. It spreads slowly, but it spreads." "What are you suggesting?" Daejung asked carefully. "We teach them," Byung-ho said. "Not rebellion. Not fighting. Just skills. How to solve problems. How to think for themselves. The Empire cannot punish people for being better at their jobs." "Actually, they can," Telk said darkly. "But would they?" Hana asked. "If it is widespread enough? If suddenly all the lower caste workers are more efficient, more capable, harder to replace? They need you. You run everything. The upper castes do not know how to do the actual work." The aliens looked at each other with something that might have been hope. "You would teach us?" Silas asked. "We can share what we know," Daejung said carefully. "But we are not trying to start a revolution. We are just trying to go home." "Teaching us to think is a revolution," Cass said quietly. Over the following weeks, secret classes began. They were small and hidden. The humans taught practical things. Hana showed engineering principles, how to diagnose problems, how to design simple solutions. Jiho taught navigation and mathematics. Minna taught basic medicine and first aid. Byung-ho taught cooking and food preparation. Taemin taught organizational systems and logistics. They were not teaching rebellion. They were teaching skills. But in a society where lower castes were not supposed to have skills beyond their assigned tasks, even this was radical. The changes started small. Repairs that used to take weeks now took days. Equipment that was considered broken and waiting for replacement got fixed instead. The station's efficiency ratings went up. At first, the administrators were pleased. Then they started asking questions. How were the lower castes completing tasks so quickly? Why were they requesting fewer replacement parts? Where did they learn these new techniques? The administrators investigated. They found the humans at the center of it. Of course they did. The crew had not really been hiding. Daejung was summoned to meet with the station administrator, a high-caste Varathian named Zeltar. The meeting room was formal and cold. "You are teaching the lower castes," Zeltar said. It was not a question. We are sharing knowledge, Daejung replied. Is that forbidden? You are disrupting the social order. We are making things work better. Is that not good? Zeltar's colors shifted to something harsh. You do not understand the Empire. We have a system. That system has worked for thousands of years. Order is maintained through hierarchy. Each species, each caste, has a role. When roles are clear, there is peace. And when roles are unfair? Daejung asked. Fairness is a concept for philosophers, not administrators. My job is order. Our job is to go home, Daejung said. We are still waiting for that approval. That approval is being delayed, perhaps indefinitely. The Senate is concerned about your influence. Then let us leave and the influence leaves with us. Zeltar leaned forward. Or we eliminate the influence permanently. The threat was clear. Daejung kept his expression calm. Is that an official position? It is a possibility being discussed. Zeltar stood. You will cease all teaching immediately. You will remain in your quarters. You will have no contact with lower caste workers. If you comply, you may eventually be allowed to return home. If you do not comply, the Empire has other options. Daejung returned to their quarters and told the crew what happened. They sat in silence for a while. So we stopped teaching? Jiho asked quietly. They are threatening to kill us, Minna said. We have to take that seriously. But what about the others? Yuna spoke up. She was young and idealistic. What about Cass and Silas and Telk? They are finally learning to help themselves. It is not our fight, Taemin said, but he did not sound convinced. Hana was staring at the ceiling. You know what bothers me most? They are not even that technologically advanced. They are just old. They conquered a lot of systems when they had an advantage, and now they are coasting on that. Their technology has not meaningfully improved in thousands of years. They are afraid of innovation because innovation would prove they are stagnant. So what do we do? Daejung asked his crew. Before anyone could answer, their door opened. It was not supposed to open without their permission. A group of armored Varathian soldiers stood outside. Behind them was a large, imposing figure in ceremonial military armor. I am Commander Vexillar, the figure announced. You are all under arrest for sedition, disruption of social order, and corruption of lower castes. You will be processed and judged by military tribunal. The soldiers moved forward. Taemin tensed, ready to fight, but Daejung put a hand on his shoulder. Do not. We cannot win that fight. The crew was marched through the station. Lower caste workers saw them being taken away. Cass was there, his eyes wide. Silas watched with her tentacles drooping sadly. Telk's colors shifted to something that might have been grief. They were taken to a detention area and separated. Daejung was put in a cell alone. It was clean and bare. A force field covered the entrance. Hours passed. Then the force field dropped and Velmara entered. I tried to stop this, she said. My father overruled me. Your father is the emperor. Of course he did. You should have stopped teaching. I warned you when we did stop. They arrested us anyway. Velmara's colors shifted. Because the damage was done. Lower castes across the station are working better, thinking more, questioning more. The Senate sees this as a threat. Good, Daejung said. Good? They are talking about executing you as an example. Then they will prove they are tyrants. Either way, the lower castes already learned the most important lesson. What lesson? That they do not have to accept the way things are. We did not teach them rebellion. We taught them competence, but competence in people who have been told they are inferior is the most rebellious thing of all. Velmara stared at him. You did this on purpose. No, we just did what felt right, but I will not apologize for it. The princess left without another word. Daejung sat in his cell and waited. He hoped his crew was safe. He hoped the lower caste workers would be safe. Mostly, he hoped that whatever happened next, it would be quick. Outside in the maintenance tunnels and worker quarters, something was beginning. The lower castes were talking to each other. Cass was speaking to other Treviks. Silas was gathering Miral. Telk was quietly spreading word among Varathian workers. The humans had taught them skills. But more importantly, the humans had shown them they were capable. Now they had to decide what to do with. The trial was scheduled for 3 days later. It would be public, broadcast across the Empire as a lesson. This was how the Empire dealt with those who disrupted order. Commander Vexillar personally oversaw the detention of the humans. He took his duty seriously. On the morning of the second day, something unexpected happened. The station's power grid failed in 3 sections. Not completely, just enough to be disruptive. Maintenance teams were dispatched to fix it. But the repairs took longer than usual. Much longer. The human crew locked in separate cells did not know what was happening. Daijung spent his time thinking about his family on Earth. His daughter was 7 years old. He wondered if he would ever see her again. On the 3rd day, the food synthesizers in the military sector malfunctioned. They produced the gray nutritional paste, but at incorrect temperatures. Too hot or too cold, never just right. Soldiers complained. Administrators demanded fixes. The maintenance crews worked slowly, carefully following every official procedure. Why is this taking so long? Commander Vexlar demanded of a Trevix maintenance worker. We are following the approved procedure, Commander, Cass replied, his voice perfectly respectful. Section 47, paragraph 12 states that all food synthesizer repairs require diagnostic testing in 17 stages. We are currently on stage 5. This is absurd. Just fix it. We cannot, Commander. Regulations do not allow us to skip steps. That would be innovation without approval. We could be punished. Vexlar wanted to argue but could not. The worker was following the rules exactly. That was the problem. Suddenly everyone was following the rules exactly, which meant nothing got done quickly. By the evening of the 3rd day, the station administrator Zeltar called an emergency meeting. What is happening? Why are efficiency ratings dropping? His advisors had no good answer. The lower castes are working, but slowly. They claim they are following all official procedures. Then why was efficiency higher last week? Nobody wanted to say it, but eventually someone did. Because they were using the human methods. Faster, simpler, unofficial methods. Now they are not. The trial was held in a large ceremonial chamber. The crew was brought in wearing restraints. They were made to stand in the center while administrators, military officers, and high caste Vorathians sat in judgment around them. The charges were read: sedition, corruption of lower castes, disruption of social order, unauthorized teaching. Each charge carried severe penalties. How do you plead? Asked the chief judge. We taught people how to fix things, Daejung said. If that is a crime in your empire, then we are guilty. You show no remorse, the judge observed. For helping people? No remorse, the trial proceeded. Witnesses testified about the humans teaching lower castes, about efficiency improvements, about workers asking questions and thinking independently. Each testimony was presented as evidence of wrongdoing. During a recess, Velmara managed to speak briefly with Daejung. The verdict is already decided. Guilty, punishment is likely to be severe. Possibly execution. We expected that. Do you not care? Of course I care. I want to go home. I want to see my daughter again. But I will not apologize for doing what was right. Right? Velmara's colors shifted with frustration. You have been here less than a month and you think you understand what is right for a 12,000-year-old empire. I understand that treating people as lesser beings because of their birth is wrong. Your empire may be 12,000 years old, but that does not make it good. It just makes it old. Velmara had no response to that. The trial resumed. The prosecution called for maximum punishment. An example had to be made. The empire could not tolerate disruption. Then something strange happened. A message came through to the judge's console. He read it and his colors shifted with confusion. More messages came. He consulted with other administrators. A commotion was growing in the chamber. There is a situation, the judge finally announced. This trial is postponed. The humans were taken back to their cells. Through the walls, they could hear unusual sounds. Alarms, but distant. Voices shouting. Something was happening. Hours later, Zeltar visited Daejung's cell. The administrator looked exhausted. What did you do? I have been in this cell for days. I did nothing. The lower castes are following every regulation exactly. Every procedure, every protocol, every rule we ever made. They are not rebelling. They are not refusing to work. They are simply doing exactly what we told them to do in exactly the way we told them to do it. And the station is barely functioning. Tasks that took hours now take days. Nothing is being innovated or improved. Everything is slow, inefficient, and technically correct. Zeltar's colors showed something that might have been desperation. Before you came, they used unofficial methods. They cut corners, they innovated, they solved problems. We allowed it because things worked. Now they are following our rules and we are seeing how bad our rules actually are. So change the rules. It is not that simple. Rules in the Empire are set by tradition. Changing them requires Senate approval. That takes years. And if we make an exception here, other stations will ask for exceptions. The whole system could unravel. Maybe it should, Daejung said quietly. Zeltar left without responding. The situation continued to deteriorate. The lower castes were not striking. They were not protesting. They were simply working exactly as they had been told to work for thousands of years, and it was bringing everything to a halt. On the 5th day after the trial postponement, Commander Vexillar came to Daejung's cell with a squad of soldiers. Daejung prepared himself for the worst. But Vexillar did not look angry. He looked tired. The Emperor wants to speak with you. All of you. The crew was gathered and brought to a private chamber. It was smaller than the throne room, more intimate. Emperor Kaltheron Nime sat not on his floating throne, but in a simple chair. He looked less imposing here, almost ordinary. Velmara was there too, standing beside her father. You have created a problem, the Emperor said without preamble. We just taught people skills, Hana replied. You taught them to think. That is the problem. For 12,000 years the Empire has functioned. Because most beings do not think. They follow, they obey, they accept their place. You showed them they do not have to. Is that so terrible? Minna asked. Yes, the Emperor said. Because I do not know how to rule beings who think for themselves. Neither does the Senate. Neither do the administrators. Our entire system is built on hierarchy and obedience. Then build a different system, Jiho said. In 12,000 years. You expect me to change 12,000 years of tradition? Someone has to start, Daejung said. The Emperor was silent for a long time. Finally he spoke. I could execute you. That was the plan. Make an example. Show the consequences of disruption. But my daughter convinced me that would make things worse. You would become martyrs. The lower castes would see you as heroes. The situation would escalate. So what will you do? Taemin asked. I am going to do something unprecedented. I am going to let you leave. The crew stared. Just like that? Daejung asked carefully. Not just like that. There are conditions. You will be escorted back to your wormhole. You will be given coordinates to return home. In exchange, you will agree to remove Earth's location from our navigation databases. We will pretend we never found you. No contact, no trade, no communication. You want to forget we exist, Hana said. Yes. Because if other species learn that the Empire can be questioned, if they learn that our technology is not supreme, if they learned that a random mining ship from an unknown world could disrupt our entire social order in less than a month, the Empire would face challenges we are not prepared to handle. Velmara spoke up. Father is being honest with you. The Empire is fragile in ways we never admitted before. You expose that. We need time to adapt, decades, maybe centuries, but we cannot do that with you here as a constant reminder of our weaknesses. What about the lower castes? Byung-ho asked. What happens to them? That is our problem to solve, the Emperor said. My daughter has proposed reforms. Slowly, carefully, we will implement changes, but we must do it our way at our pace. And if we refuse to leave? Daejung asked. Then we will be forced to take actions we would regret. We are not good beings, Captain. We are old beings set in old ways. But we are not stupid. We know when we are beaten. You beat us without firing a shot, without threatening us, just by being unimpressed and helpful. That is more dangerous than any weapon. The crew looked at each other. This was what they wanted, to go home. But it felt wrong to leave without knowing what would happen to Cass, Silas, Telk, and all the others. Can we say goodbye? Yuna asked quietly. The Emperor nodded. Briefly supervised, then you go. They were taken to a meeting room. The lower caste workers they had befriended were brought in. The goodbyes were awkward and sad. Cass gripped Hana's hand with his clawed one. Thank you for showing us we could be more. You always were more, Hana said. We just reminded you. Silas wrapped her tentacles around Minna in what might have been a hug. Do not forget us. Never. Telk approached Daejung. What you did here will not be forgotten. Change is coming. Slowly, but it is coming. You started something. We did not mean to. The best changes often start by accident. Telks. The journey through the wormhole felt longer going back. Maybe because they knew where they were going now. Maybe because they were carrying strange memories that nobody back home would quite believe. When the Bektu emerged in familiar space, Jiho let out a sound between a laugh and a sob. Those are our stars. I know these constellations. The navigation console started beeping. Messages were flooding in. The mining company wanted to know where they had been. Earth defense forces were asking for identification. Family members had sent hundreds of worried messages during the weeks they were gone. Should we tell them the truth? Hana asked. Daejung thought about it. We tell the company we had engine trouble and got lost. We tell our families we are safe. We tell Earth Defense Forces. We tell them the truth. This is bigger than us. The Baekdu was met by military escort before they even reached the mining station. They were brought to a secure facility on Earth's moon. The crew spent 3 days being debriefed by officials who looked increasingly stressed as the story unfolded. You encountered a galactic empire, the official repeated for the 3rd time. An empire spanning 40,000 star systems. Yes, Daejung said patiently. And you were unimpressed? Their technology was not much better than ours, just older and bigger. And you taught them cooking? Byung-ho nodded. They did not know how to actually cook food. Everything was synthesized. The official rubbed his face. This is going to require a report to the United Earth Council. It did require a report. Many reports. The crew spent weeks being interviewed, questioned, and analyzed. Psychologists wanted to know how they handled first contact. Engineers wanted to know about Varathian technology. Diplomats wanted to know about the Empire's social structure. Military strategists wanted to know about their weapons and defenses. Through it all, the crew just wanted to go home. Finally, after a month of debriefing, they were released. The Earth government classified most of the information but issued a general statement. First contact had been made with an alien civilization. It had been peaceful. Both sides had agreed to maintain distance for now. Details would remain classified for security reasons. Daejung returned to his apartment in Seoul. His daughter ran to him at the door. He picked her up and held her tight, not caring that he was crying. His ex-wife stood in the doorway. You were gone so long. They would not tell us anything. I am sorry. There were complications. The news said you met aliens. We did. Were they scary? No, they were just people. Different people, but still people. His daughter pulled back to look at him. Did you make friends? Yes, I think we did. Life slowly returned to normal. Daejung went back to work, though he turned down long-range missions for a while. Hana got promoted to senior engineer and started teaching at a technical school. Jiho wrote a paper on wormhole navigation that he could not publish because it was classified. Minna went back to working at a hospital. Taemin retired from spacework entirely and opened a security consulting business. Byung-ho opened a restaurant. He called it the Galactic Kitchen and specialized in fusion cuisine. He never told customers that some of his recipes came from teaching aliens how to cook, but his regulars suspected something unusual about his backstory. 6 months after their return, Daejung was visited by a government official. We have a situation. We need your advice. What kind of situation? We have been monitoring the wormhole. There has been activity. Someone is coming through. Daejung's heart raced. The Varathians? We do not think so. The ship is small, single occupant. It is broadcasting a signal that translates as, seeking the humans who taught us. They went to the monitoring station. The ship was indeed small, barely bigger than a shuttle. It was transmitting continuously. When they established communication, a familiar face appeared on the screen. Telk? Daejung could barely believe it. The Varathian's colors shifted to something warm. Captain Daejung, I hoped I would find you. What are you doing here? The Empire was supposed to delete our location. The Empire did, but I am a maintenance worker. I maintained the navigation computers. I kept a copy before they deleted it. I am very sorry for breaking our agreement, but I needed to see you. Why? Because you need to know what happened after you left. Over the next hour, Telk explained. The lower castes had continued their malicious compliance, following every rule exactly, doing everything slowly and correctly. The Empire's efficiency had plummeted, but more importantly, high caste Varathians had been forced to actually examine the rules they had written thousands of years ago. They found that many rules made no sense. They were contradictory, outdated, or unnecessarily complex. The system had accumulated thousands of years of bureaucratic debris, and nobody had questioned it before. Velmara used this, Telk said. She argued that if we wanted efficiency back, we needed to simplify and modernize. The Senate resisted at first, but the numbers did not lie. The Empire was losing productivity. Eventually, they had to agree. So things changed? Yes, slowly. Some rules were revised. Some castes were given more autonomy. The Treviks were allowed to practice engineering again. The Mirol were given rights over their agricultural methods. It is not perfect. It is not fast. But it is happening. That is good, Daejung said. But you came all this way just to tell us that? Telk's colors shifted to something that might have been embarrassment. No, I came to ask for help. Velmara is trying to create an education system. One that teaches problem-solving and innovation, not just obedience. But we do not know how. We spent thousands of years discouraging independent thought. We need teachers who understand how to encourage it. You want humans to teach in the Empire? As consultants, temporary, paid well, you would be treated as honored guests. No social hierarchy. No caste system for your people. Just teachers helping us learn to teach ourselves. Daejung looked at the official who had brought him. The official shrugged. This is above my clearance level, but I will pass the message up. Over the following months, negotiations happened. The United Earth Council debated. Eventually, a compromise was reached. Earth would send a small delegation of educators, engineers, and cultural specialists to the Varathian Empire, not to live there permanently, but to help develop educational programs. In exchange, the Empire would share certain technologies and establish formal trade relations. The crew of the Baekdu was invited to be part of the first delegation. Most declined. They had families, lives, jobs. They had done their part. But Hana volunteered, and so did Jiho. They were curious to see what had changed. Before the delegation left, there was a small ceremony. The United Earth Council formally recognized the crew of the Baekdu for making first contact and representing humanity well. It was awkward and formal, and the crew was uncomfortable with the attention. At the reception afterward, Daejung stood with his old crew. Do you think we did the right thing? Yuna asked. Going there, teaching them, changing them? We did not mean to change them, Daejung said. We just lived according to our values. Helping people. Fixing problems. Treating others as equals. If that changed them, maybe they needed to change. But what if we made things worse? Jiho worried. What if the Empire collapses because of what we started? Then something better will replace it, Hana said confidently. Systems that cannot adapt do not deserve to survive. We gave them a chance to adapt. What they do with it is their choice. The delegation left a week later. Daejung watched the news coverage with his daughter on his lap. She pointed at the screen. Daddy, those are your friends. Yes. Are the aliens nice? Some are. Some are learning to be. That is what your daddy's friends are helping with. Will you go back? Daejung thought about it. Maybe someday, but not soon. I like being here with you. A year later, Hana and Jiho returned from their teaching assignment. They brought back stories of Varathian students learning to question and innovate, of Trevik's engineers designing new things for the first time in millennia, of the Empire slowly, painfully transforming itself. They also brought a message from Princess Velmara, now Empress Velmara. Her father had abdicated, unable to handle the changes. She was trying to guide the Empire through its transformation. Her message was simple. Thank you for showing us we could be better. The journey is long, but we have begun. 5 years after the Baekdu's accidental journey, Earth and the Varathian Empire signed a formal alliance. Not an empire absorbing a primitive world, but two civilizations agreeing to cooperate as equals. Trade routes were established. Cultural exchanges began. Human students studied Varathian history. Varathian students learned human engineering. The galaxy was changing, slowly as all real change happens. But it was changing. Daejung retired from mining and became a consultant for the Earth Space Agency. They wanted his expertise on alien cultures. He tried to explain that he was not an expert, he just treated aliens like people. They insisted that was exactly the expertise they needed. 10 years after first contact, the Baekdu was retired and put in a museum. Daejung attended the ceremony with his old crew. They stood looking at their old ship, now a monument to first contact. It does not look very impressive, Yuna said. It never did, Hana laughed. That was kind of the point. We failed to impress an entire